Parshas Kedoshim in Eretz Yisrael and Achimois in Chutz La'aretz. This is going to continue for a good few months. This difference of Parshias, not to get mixed up. Well, now it's easy to define. We're a few days after Pesach, so we're going back to the topics of Tzadik V'Ra'alei Rosh V'Toivle. We're actually up to the last reason that the Chavis always mentions why we could sometimes find the Tzadik, which even though he's doing mitzvahs and he should have been the one that's the most successful, if we would follow what it says in Parshas Bechukoisai, if you do the mitzvahs, you'll have money, you'll have nachas, you'll have whatever you need, and we don't see that the results are always that way. What could be the reason? Let's remind ourselves, the Chavis always says you can't always know the reason. That was the introduction, because there are so many reasons and the combinations. It's like numbers. Even if we have certain numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the combinations, it's just, there's no gvul, how many combinations you have. So the same is with every person. If we take into consideration the neshama, the type of neshama that the person has, and the level of the nisoyin that the person has, and the history, and whatever the Hashem is planning for the future, and sometimes what's happening right now is actually the best thing, and it's not even called Tzadik V'Ra'alei, all kinds of answers. But the Chavis Avos says I could mention some of the reasons, so you could know and understand that there's some basic understanding to this topic, why it's possible for such a situation of Tzadik V'Ra'alei. So we're up to the last one of the reasons, and he mentioned sometimes it could be the reason why, if Neisha Einenu Mekane Lilikim, Lokachas Hadin Me Anshe Doirei, which means that it could be that the tzaddik on his own wasn't doing anything wrong. He did everything the way he's supposed to, but there is a taina. It means from Hashem has a certain kpeda, let's say, on the tzaddik, that he didn't enough teach other people or be moicha on other people that are doing wrong things. And we find in Shmuel, in Novi, that the children of Eli HaKohen, that they were punished, not because they did something wrong, just that they had the ability to be moicha on people that are doing something wrong, and they didn't. And for sometimes there's a oynish, there's a punishment that comes for a person that he could, I don't know how to say that in English.
Moicha is like to protest.
It's to protest, but we don't mean protest in the way people abuse the word. That's why it's very important to stress.
It means you have the ability to actually change things.
Right. This is the concept. You have the ability to change things by others, and you didn't. So let's learn the what lies under it. Let's understand it. The Gemara Masechta Shabbos explains that people have achrayas, that a person has to do Torah mitzvahs. People has a lot of obligations and responsibilities. People have responsibility. Now, the level of responsibility a person has is always, it depends where you are. That means the same way that there's let's say we have a moisid, we have a yeshiva. So you have the janitor in the yeshiva, which is responsible, but he has a certain level of responsibility. Then you have people that, the ones that are running it, the administrator that has people under him, making sure that things are working out. Then there's the principal. Then there's the Vaad, the scary Vaad that doesn't let in the people. They're like on top, which is true. They have more responsibility than the principal. Principal is also a hired person. Then there's the boss that hired. He's like the real boss. So every person, that's what the Gemara explains, the level of responsibility will always depend on what hashpo you could actually have. And the Gemara says that a person has responsibility on his house, on his household, because a person has, b'derech klal, not always, but a person has the koyach, the power to tell the people that are living here that you shouldn't be doing that, you should be doing that. He could change, he could fix. So if you could do that, it means it's under your responsibility. And if you didn't make sure that things should be in order, then it's possible that Hashem should punish a person because they didn't do their responsibilities. And then the Gemara says, a person is a Rov, then he has a responsibility on the Kehillah. Because that's the fact, that's the place you are, that's the Mishbetzet, you're right now in that spot, so that's it, it's under your Achrayas. Now, it's scary, but it's also very understood. And it's very important we should live like that. Hashem gave all of us responsibilities and specific, every person has a specific shlichus, what they need to do. Now, if a person doesn't do their responsibility and doesn't do their shlichus, every single person, then in a certain sense, it's like they did Avera. It's because you didn't do what you were supposed to be doing. Now, that's not only when it comes to be moicha, when it comes to protest or comes to fix other, it has to do with the specific shlichus a person was given, which a person is supposed to understand. Usually, a person could understand. It depends on their age. It depends on their neighbors, whatever it is, and a lot on the tchunas hanefesh that they got. They have a certain ability to help others in tzedakah v'chesed. A person that's Baruch Hashem, he's better, he's well off, and he could give more tzedakah. So it's very, very scary. It says in Chazal, we gave you a shlichus. Now it's very scary and it's a very big nisayon because there's so much gray area. It's not simple. But let's say meiser, certain basic guidelines, and a person really needs to have das Torah for this because it's very sensitive. A person should know how much of obligations they have. But everybody understands. Let's say you have a family, the parents are Baruch Hashem older, and we have to chip in to take care and to help out more. So there's a person that lives nearby, a person that lives far, a person that has more time in their hands, a person that's not possible. It's not shaykh. The person that's geschikt, that has talent, they just got it. They Hashem gave it to them. Other siblings, they don't have this koyach. Let's say they have time, but they don't have this. And there's always guilt feelings involved, always tons of guilt feelings, because people feel that they should do more, and why the other sibling is doing so much, they're not doing. A person always has to be focused. What does it make sense? What's my shlichus? What's my responsibilities? What does Hashem want from me? And the Chavis Avos, actually right after we finish Tzadik V'Ra'lo Yoshev V'Toivloi, the Chavis Avos goes on, it's the same page in the Chavis Avos, in a few lines, that a person's ishtalas in this world depends on the tchunas hanefesh Hashem gave the person. What do you like to do? What do you enjoy? Because that's how you know that that's your shlichus. That's one of the main indicators for a person to know what's your shlichus on this world. We could explain it in a way. Every person gets a toolbox with a bunch of little compartments. And now, why does Hashem give you all kinds of screwdrivers? It must be that you need it. If you cannot find in your toolbox all these things, it might be because you weren't meant for this. Talking about it, it's maybe some humorous, but it's true. It's Torah. The Stipler, the father of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, was extremely talented and handy, and anything that broke, he fixed. He fixed it. Not only that, they needed to add. He bought wood. He just made a little gate to his house and everything. He was able to fix. Not only that, this Stipler was also a fantastic psychologist. Unbelievable. One of the biggest sources of Das Torah on OCD is everybody knows, is the Stipler. He just understood it. He just had it. He was sitting like this in a sefer, old-fashioned, but he just had that talent and understanding human nature. Reb Chaim Kanievsky wasn't given all those things, and actually we just heard from older people that they knew, they heard it from their friends which were there, that they came to build a sukkah. He told me the name there's a family Acker here. Menachem Acker. He learned in Beis Meir. He was schlepping the wood, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky came to help, and he was trying to, and the Stipler came and said, Chaim, du bist a batlan, go learn. Don't help build the sukkah. He told him it's not for you. It's not. Why? Because it wasn't for him. He didn't let Rav Chaim Kanievsky become a Maggid Shir. Never. He didn't let him say Shirim. He said, it's not your tafkid. Because if yes, you would have been given other part in the toolbox. You would have gotten other things, and it's very important because it helps a person remember what am I supposed to be focusing on, and if I'm not going to do it, or even in Himmel, they might tell me what went on with you. And here, Chas v'Shalom, it's one of the reasons of Tzaddik Beralo. If we zoom out, this is what's interesting about this line. If we zoom out, what does it mean that Tzaddik would sometimes suffer because they weren't moicha? It's like a little words. It's in Hilchas protesting. No. It's in Hilchas understanding that if you're looking at the Tzaddik and you're saying, this Tzaddik, he's doing everything that's right. How could it be? I know him. He has the Yerushalayim and he doesn't miss a beat and everything. Yeah, but be aware there could be that his responsibilities are broader. Because he's in that spot, so he has more responsibilities. And that might be the reason. And if that's the case, then it makes sense again. That he's missing, that he's short. He's not fulfilling all his responsibilities because a person always is supposed to be looking, maybe because I'm not doing my responsibilities. Now, how could we apply that to every regular person? A person that's, let's say, extremely talented in helping others in different areas, and he doesn't have koyach, and he wants to rather sit and learn, he has to ask his Rav. Because he might have a responsibility, and it all boils down to the Gemara Masechtas Moed Katan Daf Tes, that a mitzvah she'i efshel yosef sadei acherim, you're supposed to close the Gemara, and that's the halacha. That's the halacha. A mitzvah that others can do, you're supposed to close the Gemara to do. Now it happens to be interesting that Tosfos mentions there that one of the examples for mitzvah which others can do is lulav. What does that mean? That means everybody understands that Sukkot in the morning, kindly close your sefer and you have to shakel lulav and esrog, because what do you mean others are doing it? No, but your mitzvah, it's interesting. Your mitzvah nobody could do. So it's very simple, and Rosh Hashanah, it's not enough that person is davening. You're supposed to be davening and hear shofar and all that. A person is supposed to chap that when it comes to their responsibilities, their unique responsibilities, it's the same like shofar and lulav. Nobody can do it. Because Hashem gave you the talent, and not only talent. Talent is one of the massive examples, but it's also the scenario, the situation, the spot that you're in. And it's a constant challenge as long as a person is in this world. Be'emes. That a person is supposed to be, what's in my spot that I am? Is this my shlichus or this is not my shlichus? If it's my shlichus, it's not comfortable, but I have to do it. Even if it's not my hours or not necessarily what I enjoy doing at this moment. But Hashem gave me this situation. Nobody else could do it, and it makes sense. Now it takes time to fine tune the sensitivity and the feeling that a person starts to click in to understand this might be my achrayus. It takes time. A person doesn't know it right away, but slowly they learn. It's an art to really feel. I think this is where I come in. I think this is something that I'm not good at. Young guys that are energetic and they like to do everything. And then when Yeshiva Das comes in, maybe this is what I do, this is what I don't do, not because of cheshboinus of COVID or monetary or such cheshboinus or cheshboinus. What does Hashem expect me to do, and what is under my responsibility?
So Rav Mendelevich said, "Ma'aseh ish of kudasa." In the Yom Noraim davening, Ma'aseh ish is Torah mitzvahs. Kudasa is the shlichus for each and every.
Beautiful. Ma'aseh ish of kudasa, which we mentioned in the Musaf Rosh Hashanah. Hashem looks at every person to check if he did what he's supposed to be doing. Ma'aseh ish of kudasa. So Ma'aseh ish means Taryag mitzvah is a checklist. Uf kudasa means what is your specific, unique shlichus that I gave you, I want you to do. You should focus on this more Torah, more chesed, more this type of Torah. And it's amazing when we look at people, at human nature. It's not human nature, it's what Hashem put into human. And we see how different people are, Ein de Yosei and Shavos, which every person be'emes has a certain uniqueness, that what they could add, what they could give for the Bria, for the world. And so many people, for different reasons, they don't do it. A good word. Some people have the talent to give a good word for others, but they're too busy with good stuff, with good Sachen. But they have to think, maybe that's my tafkid. It's really amazing. But here we see that it's another light bulb. It means if a person is watching, or themselves or others, and they think to themselves, why would that person suffer? So a different person, we don't know cheshbonos. We always have to look at the difference. You're talking about yourself, you're talking about understanding why others. Others we don't understand. You want to have a kasha on the Torah? Look in Chovos HaLevavos, there's a whole list of reasons and combinations, so you won't have a kasha. But where it's even more important is what we could see in these words in Chovos HaLevavos, where a person should internally, sometime, constantly check themselves and recheck themselves. Even if I'm doing so many good Sachen, and I feel, wow, look, I'm pushing into a day so much good, but it needs to be fine-tuned. Am I doing my responsibilities? Am I doing what Hashem, what's under my responsibility? Yeah.
The famous Dr. Avram Sofer wrote the Sefer Nishmas Avram, Rav Shlomo Zalman's doctor.
Yeah.
He told a medical student I knew, he says, you have to realize, once you learn the Chachma of Refuah, you have to treat people. He says,
who did he tell?
He told the boy who wanted to study medicine. He said, you should know that if you get the Chachma, then you're obligated for the rest of your life to treat people.
It's an amazing memory. I heard from Odom Godel Admoid. I once had to discuss with him a question, and he told me that we see in Chazal, it was a dilemma someone had. Chazal weren't mechayiv people to learn refuah and say, learn refuah, so if that's good, then pikuach nefesh. What is pikuach nefesh? We don't find that Chazal were mechayiv. But this is like complements it. But if a person also finds he feels he wants to learn it. So he says the doctor Rav Shlomo Zalman told that boy that wanted to start learning, but if you're going to know refuah, then you're obligated for the rest of your life. Then we have the story of Rav Toli Herzl. I don't remember the last name. He was a doctor in Williamsburg. We had a bris here on a Shana Rabbah. A week after Shana Rabbah this year. I'll soon finish off the story why I mentioned that we had a bris here. But Rav Toli Herzl Borstein, he was the doctor in Williamsburg, and he was a very, very ehrlich Yid. His children are Rosh Hashivas now. He was a very, very ehrlich Yid, and they came to him, the whole Williamsburg, Shabbos, Yontif. They tell him, my son is this, do I have to go into the hospital or not? And sometimes he had to go in, and it ruined the Shabbos, his Yontif. And he didn't want to, he wanted to move out of Williamsburg. He wanted to stop this because it ruined the Shabbos, his Yontif, and his connection to the Eibishter, he felt. So, Satmarov told him, it went with a back and forth. Satmarov told him that I give you all my Hoshana Rabbos. Satmarov was known, his avodah on Hoshana Rabbah. Till this man, till Shmini Atzeres, till Yontif, he crying and tshuva and this. He says, I'm giving you the schar. All my Hoshana Rabbos, instead of your, I'm masking to buy it all. That's what he said. If you give me your schusa. So he of course stayed in Williamsburg. And the end of the story is that he was nifta in Hoshana Rabbah. And Satmarov they all went to the Levaya. On Hoshana Rabbah he was nifta, and it was like finishing off the story. So here we have his Einikel that lives here in the community. And this year, he had a boy on Hoshana Rabbah, and he gave the name of Toli Herzl. Wow. So that's, but all these stories, it's amazing if we watch Hashem's colorful world, how everything is just It's like a scenery that you see the birds, you hear the birds chirping and the blue sky and the green grass. And it's not just a painting. It's because Hashem just gave it all the colors. It's just beautiful. It's the rainbow. People have Maisa Ishav Kudosai. Every person. People think, oh, because he's talented and because he's a doctor. It's because people don't invest, because sometimes people are miyuish, or people were told it's supposed to be verkwetscht or whatever. People don't invest in trying to figure out, I have talent. And I'm a chuyev. And here comes the knetch, what we learn in Chovos Halevovos. The Chovos Halevovos is saying that you might have never realized, if you are going through something that's like in the category of Roy Adam Yisurim Boim Olaf, a person that sees he has Yisurim, doesn't have to be who knows what, but he's thinking maybe I should go fix up something. You might have never looked at the angle of Kudosoi. I'm sure the Chovos Halevovos is telling the person, I'm sure you were focusing on the basics. Because that's what a person says that, my Shemayim, I got up late, I'm sure I could wash my eyes, I could be more ehrlich, I know, but it could be that Hashem is telling you something about Kudosai, and you never thought of it. And it's really amazing, because, let's remind ourselves, it's something that we maybe didn't mention a long time, but 3 years ago when we were in Yeshiva with the Bochum, we mentioned this Rashi, a bit less than 3 years ago, but in the summer now, that when Rashi mentions a person should look, Yifashpesh b'maisav, a person should, what could be the reason why a person has Yisurim? The Gemara continues, the Gemara says, Pishpesh v'loi motza. If you looked around, you didn't see what could be the reason why Hashem is giving me this Yisurim, then you should look at this, Yitle b'bitl Torah. So Rashi is bothered, the same like all the other Meforshim. How could it be you didn't find anything? Come on. Fish v'loi matzah, you're up to that level. So Rashi says, you didn't see something that would make sense that it's because of that. That's what Rashi says. It means, I didn't now go check after you in every single detail. I know it could be a lot of things we have to fix. Of course, a person always has to do tshuva. But try to look at something, to focus on something that would make sense. So, we mentioned the Prima Godim in a Sefer Rish Yosef says, the Moshel Mida Keneged Mida. That means something that it stims. If someone hurt somebody else and somebody was pegei you, if someone embarrassed you, maybe you embarrassed someone, look around. But this piece, little hiding piece in Chovos Halevovos, opens up that a person could look at, maybe I'm not doing my broader responsibility. Maybe that's where I could be doing kiruv. Who knows? A person looks around. Maybe I have responsibility. Maybe Hashem sent me a little sign that my neighbor came knocking on my door, and I could have just been so nice to him or whatever, and I didn't think of it. Or so many other responsibilities. There's so much talent in so many different areas, but every person has a kudosai. And sometimes it's internal. It doesn't have to be that a person has to go out. Sometimes it's in the house. But something specific, something that a person feels, maybe it's my responsibility because the spot that I'm in. The tzaddik, and this brings us back to where we started off, the tzaddik, be aware that tzaddik has broader responsibilities. You're looking from your eyes at the tzaddik and saying, he's like, forget it. He's so nizir in so many things. It's true. But that's what it is. Every person. The tzaddik is simple to understand. Hashem gave him different responsibilities. Because the Zohar Kodesh explains it, and in other Svarim, that the same way Hashem created a world, which there are plumbers, it's like one of the biggest nisim. If you think into it, it's fascinating. Why in 2000, whatever it is, people should still, why would a person want, because also Yofa Be'itoy, the Gemara Brachos Mem Gimel says, Hashem made that every person enjoys, and the reason for it is, you know the reason why a person enjoys it? There's a concept behind it. Because the Eibusha gave him inner satisfaction to this specific shlichus, because he's supposed to be serving the world. So that's why he has that satisfaction. Because it's not coming from the outside. It's not because everybody's telling him, wow, I never met a plumber that's so successful. It's because he's doing it shlichus. And he has talent, and he just understands through it, and everything it goes like that. And a person should never be ashamed. There's no reason to smirk, because there's no reason to be ashamed, because it's Hashem shlichus, the same Darish Hashiva that has his night coil or whatever it is, same thing. Mamish, in the sense of if a person becomes bottled to their shlichus. So now we have this chavis kavos. It opens up a person's eyes. Keep on checking yourself, because let's remind ourselves, it's already half a year almost, or whatever, since we started this topic of Yisurim. When a person has any type of Yisurim, even like the Gemara says, coffee spills, or whatever it is, and the same as when it's heavy Yisurim, it's a conversation. It's a conversation that Hashem has with the person. And sometimes people are scared to say, what, it means I did something wrong? Sometimes people are not at that level. I just had it the other day, and I saw that we have to watch out the way we speak. So if it's youngsters sometimes, or Pchlal people that are not yet used to this kind of sprach, you tell them, because you did something wrong, they totally lose it. They turn off. They mamish turn off. They're like, well, I did Aveda because they're not yet so excited and happy that they're good, so they should be able to hear criticism, so they don't understand. When we say that Yisurim is because a person is supposed to be fixing something, it's a conversation. It's a conversation that a person has. Every person that's a successful person, and he has a best friend. Let's say a person is a singer, or a person is whatever. He has a best friend. The best friend tells him, I heard of a new song, a new technique. I heard of a new thing. Why shouldn't you look into it? Hashem is the person's best friend. Lashon HaRamchal, right? It's not we're using that term. Hashem is the person's best friend. And constantly, it's only a conversation. It's only a conversation. Where Hashem is telling you, let's do it better. I'm moedic proud. I'm be'emes proud of you, but let's do it better. So Yisurim is like, put thought to it.
Instead of saying that it's a rejection.
It's not rejection, never. It's so important to stress it again and again. It's not rejection. Hashem, we have a whole shir prepared that we didn't yet. We hope some of it we'll be able to say in today's shir. It's a conversation. So here we have another angle in the conversation. That Hashem is reminding the person, okay, you're doing good, but I expect more from you. I really expect more from you because, Baruch Hashem, you're capable. I gave you talent and you're capable. I'm pushing you into a new world, which you could help others in so many different ways. Every person with their talent that they have, they should throw it into the kupas tzedakah from Klal Yisrael, and then you have that's the idea of going to work even. That's the idea. Hashem says, "I'll be mefarnes you if you just give your talent to the world." Al Kaponim, this is this concept by a tzaddik. The tzaddik is one of these services to the world. Mamish Azor. If you understand that Hashem created Chochmah, so there was a person was born and he was a genius, and he figured out, it's simple, that Hashem gave him at a certain era, when Hashem wanted electricity and Hashem wanted whatever it is to come out, Hashem gave him the tools, Hashem put it into the mind, because Hashem wanted, we don't know why specifically this person, but he was used as on the chess game, yeah? A pawn on the chess game to just be used, sort of Klal could gain, and if he doesn't do it, Hashem is like, okay, no, the Olam is waiting. The Olam is waiting for you. So the same as a tzaddik. That's what the Zohar Kodesh explains. A tzaddik, and Baal Shem Tov explained it well and brought it out. There's two parts of a tzaddik, and that's what there's two different types of tzaddikim. And a little bit we mentioned in the previous English year. One part of a tzaddik is a erech yid, which means they do what they're supposed to, and they're really, really following it all, and because of that they have Ashoras HaShechina, and they keep the world going. Tzaddik Yisoid, it's one part of it. There's a different part of it. His truma, his donation, maybe contribution. His contribution to the world. And some tzaddikim originally come down to the world not because of themselves. That's what's so interesting about it. Not because happens to be that their mother cried that they should be ehrlich and they learned so well and then whatever, and then until they became a tzaddik. That's one kind, and there's a lot of it. There is also a different kind. That's what the Zohar Kodesh explains. That Hashem is taking care of this world. So the world should have all the services. And part of that is different types of neshamas, which will be there, each one with their tafkid, with their responsibility to make sure, their shlichus, that Yidden should have what they need. Some of them are going to be doing sigufim, and they're going to be having a show as Ashkenaz of this world. Nobody's going to know about them. Tzadikim nestorim, crazy service for the world. But the contribution to the world is they're keeping the world going. But they were like Katchila, they were put in Shoslom. Shoslom b'chol dor v'dor. Hashem planted tzadikim in every generation because Hashem wanted the world to be able to continue. So He planted those tzadikim. There's no way the world would go on without it. I just heard from a person, and it struck me. It could explain the concept of tzadikim. There was a sick person that needed they wanted to keep the sick person in the hospital. I heard from the family by the bed. And they didn't let the patient out. And the family wanted that the patient should be treated at home. Famous dilemma. And they said they're going to have all the equipment and everything like an ICU. Everything like an ICU. So the doctor that had to sign to be able to let the patient out of the hospital said, yeah, but one of I see you have all the equipment and you have nurses and everything, but I can't let you out of the hospital if you don't have a generator. Because what happens if there's if the electricity, if there's a power failure, then the machines go and that's it. So a hospital has a generator. Okay, that explains us this world with tzaddikim. We need this world to go on for whatever Hashem's plan is. It needs to have another spare battery and generator. This tzaddikim. There has to be, every single second, there has to be tzaddikim and Torah Lishma and the whole thing going on. And they have their tachlis and shlichus this world. This is what the Chovos HaLevavos is explaining in the broader picture. That tzaddik has to make sure that he does that. And this tzaddik has to be moiche. It means he has to protest. It means explain to people what they're doing wrong and help them and be mechanech them. And if he's short in doing that could also bring yisurim. And every person should understand it. L'gabi der shlichus. Now, let's just understand with this another Ma'amar Chazal, which sometimes people get mixed up. Tzaddik HaKadosh Baruch Hu medaktik v'hem k'chut asar. And the Gemara has stories about it, that some tzaddikim, sometimes Hashem would be very strict with them, and even they do a mashu, something so minor, something wrong, like a chut asar, means like here they did something wrong, they could have oynish, they could have yisurim on it. Now, where is this here? In Tzaddik V'Ralei, shouldn't it say in the Chovos HaLevavos? And sometimes we need to use it. It means we watch Tzaddikim when we say, and the main question that a lot of people sometimes voice their, and sometimes don't, that they don't want to be a tzaddik. Because why do I need to go into this category that Hashem should look after me? Do me a favor. Let me be from the regular folks and medaktim. And what's taka the pshat? The pshat is that's really it comes into this topic that we're learning, which is there needs to be a white tablecloth on the table. There's a lot of tafkidim in this world. Like we have a room, there could be a table, chairs, sforim shank, everything. We need the white tablecloth. If it's a Shabbos, the Gesuda, you need a white tablecloth. A white tablecloth is the easiest. The stain is very easy to see the stain. That people here should know about it. Yeah, it's very easy. now it needs to be cleansed and washed and whatever. But what should there should be no white tablecloth? A collar gown, yeah, is by the chuppahs they bring white wine. It shouldn't get stained. So a person's going to say, oh, I'm amazing, I'm more the gezach. I'm going to bring a black gown. Oh, it's a problem because there's so much akmas nefesh. Because sometimes something with those, it's not the answer. It sounds funny, but let's think into it. Why is it not the answer? It's not the answer because the world needs a white gown, and that's the shleimus of the chasana. The chasana has to be, and the same is with tafkidim ashlichas of people. The duties, yeah, we didn't use that word. it could be used. That's mustama a better, yeah. A person has an achrayus, a person has, but the pshat is azoi. In Zohar Kodesh, Parshas Pinchas, Reish Chof Aleph, Amid Beis, or Amid Aleph, it says that a goy asked Reb Elazar Reb Shimon, the son of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. He said, if it's true that Klal Yisrael is so close to Hashem, how could it be that Klal Yisrael is a nation that suffers so much and goes through so much? We're the ones that are close. Because the Ben Melech always has whatever they want. He asked him 3 questions. This was the middle question. And he showed him, he proved to him, it means you're the guys of all. Now, there's a Gemara in Yevamas, in the Dafyomi area here. The Gemara says when a ger comes and wants to be part of the Jewish nation, we tell him, do you know what it's all about? Schufim, dvuyim, a whole list of words. You know that they always suffer, and they always have hardships, and they're always in golus, and they always have pain. You want to be part of them? It means that that defines the nation. So it's amazing if you think into it. Stam? No, it really defines the nation. So what's the pshat? Reb Elazar Reb Shimon told him that you have to understand something. The mashal the Zohar Kodesh gives is that there's a heart, and the heart gives chiyus to all the evorim, all the limbs, organs. It goes. It says the foot, or the bottom of the foot, that's further from the heart, doesn't have such sensitivity, and that's because it's further away. The biggest pain a person could have is by the makor from chiyus, and that's by the heart. That's where people feel. The pain is by the heart. The more closer to the source, the more sensitive it is. It's a fact that's how it goes. That's the metzias. Tzadikim have a tafkid that they have an achrayus, they have a responsibility to bring Hashoras Hashchina to the world. The same way they need to give people musa and all that. They need to. It's also by doing mitzvahs, and it's also by teaching the teachings to everybody. That's that's what tzaddikim do. So now, as part of it, Hashem has to keep them. It's like a cloth that Hashem keeps them like that. The conversation that Hashem has with them is about minor things because that's their obligation. That's the obligation. Now, but it's when a person is close to Hashem, the excitement and the tainug, even in this world, beside that world, is so much more that it overpowers the medaktichem chut asara. It's simple. But it explains it's on both parts. It has to be like that because that's their achrayus and obligation. And mitzad sheini, it's not like they lose out. They're not losing out at all. Because by actually being in that spot, then it comes along with that and it pays because that's their achrayus. It means if a president of a country says something stupid, it's hard to say this Moshe because they just lost it. But let's say back in the day, or the Moshe Mishlei, yeah, people look at them, they said something, and everybody says, you said this, you said that. It's part of being a president. It's not only that there's pros and cons. It's part of it that means you should be watching what you speak. It should be like that. You also should be wanting to be in that spot that you should be much more refined. That's the concept. So every person in their level, wherever they are, it's about responsibilities. Look around. And understand that Hashem is going to be having conversation with you lefi your responsibility b'chlal and lefi the level that you are. That means in wherever you are. That means you end up, the conversation will be on minor Zachen, because Hashem wants to continue in your maslu, wherever you're going. It's a broad topic, but we'll take a break here. This is interesting. It's very important. Okay.
Tell you, I don't know. It's